the best thing about my workouts is I get this endorphin rush every day, but we fail to. Okay, when we talk about the destruction caused by overtraining and burnout, we need to start the conversation with this concept called overreaching. Overreaching is a popular term to describe a period of escalated training or escalated chronic stress of any kind that generates positive adaptations like competitive success, or you just wake up every day and head back to the hospital for a 7-week vigil and you feel fine. You're not tired. You're not even hungry. You might have your fingers shaking a little bit, but your body is able to cope because you have asked it to under what the primitive brain perceives as a matter of life or death. And in some cases, you could say it is, but in modern life, what happens is we tiptoe into overreaching frequently because we've been flying around on jets and transferring time zones and trying to adhere to our devoted fitness regimen in the hotel gym at 6 a.m. in New York, but that's really 3 a.m. on the West Coast. But hey, you got to bang out your workout before you have a busy day of hectic, stressful meetings in the business setting, and all those different examples, especially dysfunctional relationship dynamics, which bring you to a baseline level of chronic overproduction of stress hormones because you are immersed in dysfunctional relationship setting, which is so destructive because then we have to pile over difficult lifestyle circumstances on top of that. That's why when you listen to the Mia Moore show, we talk about how we both believe that relationships should be easy and effortless in many ways instead of characterizing them as a lot of work, because life is tough enough outside the home. We want to have a nice, comfortable setting where we don't have to work hard in order to communicate well. We just let it flow and things are managed easily, and we're mutually supportive in all those great attributes of a positive and healthy relationship dynamics. But when you start stacking these stressors, you can easily get into this state called overreaching, or you could call it early stage overtraining. What's happening here is the body's trying hard to adapt, but you are getting signals and symptoms of impending doom. And they can fool you. They can trick you into thinking, hey, I don't need rest. I feel fine. Like the person that says, hey, why don't you go home from the hospital and get some rest? And the person answers, no, I'm not tired. Leave me alone. No, I'm not hungry either. I just want to sit here and deal with this crisis. For the athletes, it's like, hey, you've been training really well for 6 weeks straight and you escalated pretty quickly to get up to this level. Why don't you take a week's break? And the athlete will think, well, why? My legs are fine. I'm not sore. Again, in another show, I mentioned that the reason you're not sore is because you're possibly experiencing chronic low-grade inflammation in the body as one of the symptoms of the chronic fight or flight stimulation, such that you wake up in the morning and your legs feel supple and loose and not sore because the inflammation process is doing so in the state of overreaching. So it feels fine. It's actually a pretty good buzz to be able to do all that hard work and respond to it and swim a little bit faster in the pool at your workout and climb the hill on the mountain, feeling effortless and putting in a better gear and doing whatever you're doing in the gym and completing that CrossFit session, feeling great and feeling like you're just building, getting better. So it's sort of an intoxicating situation, especially when you factor in the endorphin rush that you get after a difficult or strenuous or long duration workout. Now remember, the endorphins are pain-killing chemicals that are released into the body to allow you to continue to run for your life. Remember, this is an evolutionary adaptation, or as Mark Sisson points out, a further nuance to the endorphin chemicals. It's also, these chemicals are released into the body so that when you do get tired and lie down on a rock to rest, you're not going to be terribly disturbed when the lion eats you. Okay, so the endorphins are there to protect you from pain and suffering. And today, we keep going for those endorphins. We talk about it like it's a positive thing and a great aspect of life that, the best thing about my workouts is I get this endorphin rush every day, but we fail to respect the evolutionary rationale for endorphins. So the endorphin rush is great. Don't get me wrong. You deserve to feel a sense of euphoria after you've worked your body and pushed it hard, but it should be managed and regulated very carefully. So perhaps you get an endorphin rush 2 or 3 times a month from a really kick-ass workout, or you're going to hike the highest peak in your state this summer. And boy, on that day, when you're going for a 4 or 5 or 8 or 10-hour hike, you're going to be filled with endorphins because your body is trying to get you to the top of the mountain and back down safely. It doesn't mean we want to go do it the next Tuesday morning at the 6 a.m. spin class. Otherwise, you are messing with your chemical system to great peril and great detriment. Okay, so that's a full take on the endorphin rush. In the overreaching phase, all these positive adaptations can trick you and think that you're just progressing and you're becoming a badass. Here's some examples. The hell weeks that we often see with team sport athletes. So the high school football players go for their 2-a-days in the hot summer sun, and poor kids are getting up at 7 a.m., a couple hours in the morning, and then 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. And then, of course, they have to hang out late at night at the milkshake shop, talking about how good they're going to be in the upcoming season. And during this hell week, a lot of team sport athletes are feeling fine because they're just bathed in those stress hormones that are getting them through hell. And ideally, they would have a nice rest and a nice break to sleep in and recalibrate and regulate after such an arduous experience. That's for team sport athletes. We have the thing in the endurance community, especially, again, thinking back to the high school running camps where all the kids go off to high altitude location and get some Airbnbs, and they're having fun, and they're running to 12 miles in the morning and another easy 4 in the afternoon, way, way beyond their previous training capabilities in busy everyday life. And everyone's getting fitter and stronger. And then in many cases, unless you have a really sensible rest period after such a training camp, that's when the immune system becomes compromised because you've just been banging out stress hormones the entire duration of your stay at high altitude, where it's so much more difficult to train than it is at sea level. And there's also times where, for whatever reason, your training is escalated. Maybe you have a 3-week vacation. So what you're going to do is get on that bike because you didn't get to pedal much the previous winter, and pedal all day long for all you're worth. And you're going to feel fine and pretty darn good after day 7 or day 12 or day 14. But again, this is a sign of being in that overreaching state. It's a temporary and unsustainable phase of training. Here's a fun note to close with. I contend that virtually every world record in the endurance sports was set by someone who was immersed into an overreaching phase. Because after all, we're talking about pushing the previous limits of human performance such that they need to be in a temporary and unsustainable fitness stage to go out there and throw down a 26-minute 10K on the track. So just something fun to think about, where we get these artificial or unsustainable chemical highs, and they last for a short time, and you got to come back down after that and recalibrate so that you don't continue down that enlightened and wonderful path full of cotton candy and bubblegum, but it is headed to the destination of burnout and overtraining.